Hello everyone, Mr. Minix, my name, math is my game, and this video serves the purpose of going over this midterm review that my Algebra 2 class has been working on the last few days. I mentioned at the onset that writing down answers for the sake of writing down answers isn't going to really be fruitful as far as helping you prepare yourself for the midterm. The idea is that you would work through these problems on your own merit without just copying them off someone else. Although I know some people did that, and whatever, each to his own or her own. So anyway, there's 5 problems on the board that are the numbers are up there. Probably want to make note of that. I told a couple of my classes this, but I don't think I told my first period class. Number 3, number 5, number 13, 35, and 49. You'll want to highlight those ones because those 5 problems are very similar. And I know similar is not a word, but I like to say it. They're very similar to the extended response questions on the midterm. And as we get to them, I'll kind of go over that a little bit more. So what I'm going to do now is just read off all the answers. And at the end, if there's any questions, I will take your questions and answer them one by one at the end. So looking at this packet, 50 questions, that's a lot of them. Number 1, the year that a house is bought. A house could be bought in 1900 or 1901 or 1902 or 2017. All those, if you think about them, those are most specifically the answer we're looking for is natural numbers. Okay, natural numbers are rational. They're definitely not irrational. You wouldn't buy a house in the year the square root of 10,000. Well, maybe this. I don't know if 10,000 is 10,000 a perfect square. If it is, maybe you would then. But anyway, the square root of 2, that doesn't make sense. In integers, we usually don't have negative times. So number 1, the right answer was natural numbers. Number 2, I have a feeling that a lot of people struggled to get the right answer to number 2. If you work out number 2, there ends up being 2 answers. You should have got x equals -4, and you should have got x equals -1/2. Now, what ends up happening is if you plug in -4, it makes the right side of the expression negative, and an absolute value can never be negative. So the deal is the -4 is what's known as the extraneous solution. So -1/2 is the solution to number 2. If you need to see that one worked out, at the end, I will gladly do that. But number 2, the answer is that x equals -1/2. Number 3, there are 2 answers. They're not plus or minus the same thing. One of them is -25. The other one is +27. So number 3, we're looking for -25 and +27. Number 4, the answer, the solution set is that x is between -2 and 4, or -2 is less than x is less than 4 is the way that that probably ought to be written. And I think I just broke my computer. Gotta love that. So anyway, the right choice for number 4 then should have been D, as in dog. So number 4, the right choice was D, as in dog. And again, if you need to see any of these worked out, I will gladly do that at the end when I take the questions. So my Adobe and this video don't like to play well together, but that's okay. We'll get it figured out. Moving on to page 2. Number 5. Number 5 is the question that is on the midterm. It's the one that everybody misses. Number 5, the right answer. In the absolute value, we're looking for h minus 1.6. So in the absolute value, we're looking for h minus 1.6. And then the middle blank is a less than or equal to. And then the other number is a 0.3. Okay. So I will take a minute and write up number 5 here. Number 5 was absolute value of h minus 1.6 and absolute value less than or equal to 0.3. This is called the tolerance type of problem. And on the test, what they're going to say is, somebody's trying to make a pipe with a diameter of 3 feet. And the tolerance is, let's say, 2 inches. Okay, so on the test there's going to be a question just like this, and they're going to ask you, write an absolute value inequality that represents this. So one thing you might notice is that inside the absolute value on this, you're going to have your variable, you're going to have minus, and you're going to have your target number. You're going to have your target number in there. And then because we want things to be in between two values, we're always going to be using a less than or equal to. And then the number that goes on the other side of that is the tolerance. Is the tolerance. So if we had to write an expression for this with a pipe with a diameter of 3 feet with a tolerance of 2 inches, what that would look like, you might think that it's the absolute value of d minus 3 and absolute value, and then that's less than or equal to 2. There's a problem with that, though. Anybody see what the problem with that is? Yeah. Because it's minus 3 what? No, the minus 3 inside the absolute value is perfect. But there's a problem with this. What do we got? When you plug something in for d in the absolute value and make it positive so it can't be less than 2. No, that's right. The expression's written right. The numbers are wrong. Anybody see what's wrong with the numbers? Sometimes you just got to look at it. The diameter is listed in 3 feet, and the tolerance is listed in 2 inches. Are feet and inches the same units? So we got to either switch the 3 feet over to inches or the 2 inches over to feet. What do you want to? You want to make the 3 feet into inches? All right, so how many inches is 3 feet? 36. So in the absolute value, then that's going to have to be 36, right? There's one on the midterm just like that. Just like that. It's the extended response, and everybody misses it. Hopefully you won't. Okay. Moving right along then to number 6. Number 6, if you plug a 6 into that function, that's all you're doing. I'm going to fire up the calculator. It'll probably take a minute to load. While that's loading, I'll just read off the answer to number 6. Number 6 ends up being 125. 125. Number 7, x plus 3 is a translation up 3 units. The right answer to 7 is A. Each output is 3 more than the corresponding output for y equals x. So number 7 was A. For the top half, the graph of number 7. The graph of number 7 is D. So the first half of 7, the answer is A. The second half of number 7, the graph part is D. Okay. Number 8's kind of a tricky question because B and D say almost the same thing. B and D say almost the same thing. What ends up making the answer D is PEMDAS. Because of PEMDAS, the first thing that happened to the variable is that it was multiplied by 1/8. So D is the right answer for number 8. If you said B, it's not a horrible answer, but D is the better answer, the best answer, the right answer. Okay. Let's see if my calculator has loaded yet. Probably not. It's getting there. So back to number 6, and I would like to kind of go into a little bit more detail and show you more along the lines of what you're going to see. Number 6, we had f of x. So I'm going to just type define f of x as 19x plus 11. And then to evaluate that, I'm just going to type f of 6. F of 6. And press enter, and there it is, 125. Okay. On the test that you're going to be taking, it's going to be a little bit more challenging than that. You're going to have something like f of x is 6x plus 1. G of x is negative 3x plus 4, and they're going to say find f of 4 minus g of negative 2. You could punch all that into the calculator, or you could evaluate each part one by one. So f of x, we're going to take this. F of 4, we're going to plug a 4 in. So that's 6 times 4 plus 1. That's 24 plus 1. That's 25. And then this function g, we're taking g of negative 2. So g of negative 2 means we're going to have negative 3 times negative 2 plus 4. So that's 6 plus 4. So that's 10. And we are subtracting that. So we're minusing that, minusing that, minusing that. So the answer here would be 15. Okay. And again, the calculator can and will do something like that for you if you just define both of those functions. Okay. So if I type into the calculator define f at x as 6x plus 1, and I type in define g of x as negative 3x plus 4. I think those are the right functions. And then I take f of 4 minus g of negative 2, f of 4 minus g of negative 2. There it is. Okay. So the calculator can be your best friend if you know how to operate it. All right. So moving right along then, we're looking at number 9 next, I guess. Number 9. So number 9, I see the negative, which tells me I have a V shape that opens downward. I see the 2, which tells me that that's the slope. Rise over run. It's steeper. So number 9, we're looking at D. Number 9, the right answer is, oh, yeah, 9's D. I had the wrong answer on my paper. The graph is, oh man, that's, wow, 9's kind of like that one. So the graph part of 9 is D. The bottom part of 9 is A, because the graph is vertically stretched and reflected across the x-axis. So 9, the right answers are D for the graph and A for the second half. Number 10, the vertex is the ordered pair 3, negative 6. That's positive 3, negative 6. Axis of symmetry equation is x equals 3. And the multiple choice part for number 10, we're looking at A is the right answer there. So again, 10 was 3, negative 6, x equals 3, and A for the multiple choice. Moving on to 11, in absolute, well, actually before the absolute value, we would need to put a negative because the graph opens down. If I examine this graph carefully, I can see that the slope, it's not actually the slope, but the steepness of this measures out at 3 over 1. So we're looking at negative 3 times the absolute value of x minus 4 and then plus 2. So number 11, y equals negative 3, beginning absolute value bar x minus 4, end absolute value bar, and then plus 2 on number 11. If you got that one right, good job. Number 12, the negative tells me that the graph opens down. The plus 3 tells me that the vertex is translated left. Number 12, the first part for the graph, we're looking at C. Number 12, the graph part, we're looking at C. The x-intercepts for number 12. On that, what you would have to do is replace y with a 0. And again, if you want to see this done at the end, I will gladly work this out. But you replace y with 0, and then you solve the equation. And you should have got negative 7, 0, and 1, 0. Again, that's negative 7, 0, and 1, 0 for the x-intercepts. For the y-intercept, you would have to replace x with 0 and solve for y. And when you do that, the y-intercept for number 12 is 0, 2. Number 12, the y-intercept is the ordered pair 0, 2. 13, you're just plugging in coefficients. First row, the matrix, negative 4, positive 4, and 2. Second row, looking at 6, negative 6, and 4. That one's pretty straightforward. Number 14, identifying the element. Subscript 2 means the second row. Subscript 1 means the first element. So number 14, the right answer is 1. A sub 21 is 1. Okay. Moving on to 15, again, coefficients. You just got to remember that because there's an x there, that means there's a 1 in front of it. So in the first row of the matrix, we're looking for negative 1. and then 1, and then 6. Second row of the matrix would be 1, -7, and 3. Okay, and there is one of the extended response questions on the test is just like 13 and or 15. Okay, so make sure that you can do those ones. Number 16. Guess I'm going to have to cut 16 out and put it on the smart board so that we can see the graph. Really going to give my computer a workout here. So number 16, yeah, it's not going to like that. Try it one more time. Oh, it really doesn't like that. Okay. The computer's not good at all at multitasking. That's okay. We'll make do. Apparently I can't add anything. All right, so have to do this the old-fashioned way. 16, the graph of x squared minus 7 is just going to be translated down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the vertex is down there at 0, -7. And the graph kind of looks something like this. We go over 1 and up 1, and over 2 and up 4 from where we were. So anyway, that's kind of the idea on that one. 16, the second half of it, the right answer is D. 16, the second half, the right answer is D. Okay. I'm going to take a brief intermission and tell a really bad math joke. Did you guys hear about the person that was afraid of negative numbers? Did I tell you this one already? There was this person terrified of negative numbers. She would stop at nothing to avoid them. All right. Number 17. 17, the vertex is the ordered pair 8, -26. 8, -26. The maximum value is that y-coordinate of the vertex. So the maximum value, it has a maximum because the graph opens down. The maximum value is -26. And on 17, the domain is all real numbers. 17, the domain is all real numbers. That's choice E. In the range, all real numbers less than or equal to -26. All real numbers less than or equal to 26. One thing I would like to point out about number 17, a couple different ways to express all real numbers, because on the test you will need to know this. All real numbers can be written that way, can be written this way, and on the test you also need to know that if the domain is all real numbers, the domain is all real numbers. Remember, the domain deals with the x, so it's the set of all x's such that x is an element of the reals. That's the format. That's the language. Oh man, didn't mean to erase that. That's the language that is going to be used on the midterm, so make sure you're familiar with that question. The maximum was -26 on number 17. Okay. Doing all right? Good. Good. Okay, moving right along. The next item up for bids, number 18. Oh, I think I just broke my computer again. Yep. See how many times that happens today. Probably a lot. All right, number 18. Oh, I like this one. So f of x equals, if you examine carefully the graph and you go from the vertex over to the next discernible point, it looks like you can go over exactly 1 and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the a value is -5. So we're looking for f of x equals -5 times the quantity of x plus 2, the quantity squared, and then plus 6. Again, that's f of x equals negative 5 times the quantity x plus 2, the quantity squared, and then plus 6. 19, the vertex is negative 3, 4. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. The graph opens up, so it has a minimum, and that minimum value is the y-coordinate of the vertex, which is 4. The minimum value is 4. The range, they want you to write an inequality here. Since the range deals with the y's, the inequality that we're writing is y is greater than or equal to 4. Y is greater than or equal to 4. And this little bubble down here, the graph does have a minimum. Okay. Moving on to number 20, maybe. I think I have too many windows open, apparently. Whenever I'm videoing, bless you. Whenever I'm videoing, I can't have that many windows open, apparently. And apparently, I say the word apparently a lot. Well, that's kind of frozen, so bear with me. I don't have the visual to go along with it, but number 20 is negative 3, negative 1 for the vertex. Number 20, the vertex is negative 3, negative 1. The axis of symmetry is that x equals negative 3. Number 20 has a maximum. I know that because the graph opens down. The maximum value is the y-coordinate of the vertex, which is negative 1. And the range is that y is less than or equal to negative 1. Okay. If you'd like to see that one worked out, again at the end, ask questions. I'll gladly show that one. I used completing the square when I did that. There's a little trick to that one. So that's 20. And apparently, there we go again saying the word apparently. Apparently every time I try to use the D-pad, the directional pad, in my PDF file, my computer gets confused. So I'll see what happens if I don't use the directional pad. Tempting as it might be. Number 21, factor. Hey, we remember factoring. That's all that chapter 4 stuff that we just got done studying. Number 21, two quantities, x plus 1 and x plus 4. Doesn't matter what order. No. You could have 4 plus x and 1 plus x. But anyway, you could have x plus 4 and x plus 1. But anyway, yeah, 21, the quantity of x plus 1 and the quantity of x plus 4. 22 is a difference of two squares. We're looking for the quantity of x plus 7 and the quantity x minus 7. 23 is also a difference of two squares. We're looking for the quantity of 4x plus 9 and the quantity of 4x minus 9. 24, we're looking for p minus 5, the quantity squared. P minus 5, the quantity squared. 28, they want you to factor out the GCF. The GCF is 4x, but you do have to write that. So it's 4x times the quantity of 7x plus 5. That's 4x times the quantity 7x plus 5. 26. I can't believe how many people don't factor out a negative. I'm going to write this one up real quick. That's negative x squared. Negative, let's try that again. Negative x, let's try that one more time. Maybe not. My smart board really doesn't like me today. Negative x squared plus 5x minus 4. Okay, you factor a negative out of this, which makes that x squared minus 5x plus 4. The negative goes along for the ride. It hangs out front. And I think these are a lot easier to factor if you leave the negative out front. So that's what we're looking for on that one. Negative the quantity x minus 1, the quantity x minus 4. If you didn't factor the negative out, you could still factor it, but it's just a lot easier if you factor the negative out on those. Okay. 27, you might look at 27 and say that's just like 22. Well, no, not really. It's similar, but it's not just like it. 27 factors into x plus 7 and x minus 7, but then you got to answer it, and the answers are negative 7 and positive 7. Okay, so 27 has solutions, and those solutions are negative 7 and positive 7. 28, when you factor it, it factors into m minus 1 and m minus 8, but the answers to 28, the solutions are 1 and 8. 1 and 8. 29, common mistake people make. They forget that when you factor out a 0, that accounts for one answer. 29 factors into x times x minus 17. So the solutions are 0 and 17. So number 29, the answers are 0 and 17. Number 30, that one factors into 5r minus 4 and 4r minus 7. So the solutions to 30 are 4/5 and 7/4. 4/5 and 7/4. Remember, you're going to be allowed to use the calculator on the test. And on the calculator, if you want to, you could type polyroots, quantity, the expression 20r squared minus 51r plus 28 comma r, and there you go. It'll give you the answers. Okay. Same thing for 31. You could punch that into the calculator. The answers to 31 are negative 6 and 3/2. Negative 6 and 3/2. And again, if you'd like to see any of these worked out at the end, I will gladly do that. 32, a couple different things you could have had for your answer. You could have had negative 7, the quantity squared, or 49. Either one of those is fine. Negative 7 in parentheses with the squared, or 49. Number 33, negative 13, the quantity squared, or 169. Negative 13 quantity squared, or 169. Number 34, they want you to rewrite that in vertex form. That one is y equals the quantity of x plus 4, the quantity squared, minus 3. X plus 4, quantity squared, minus 3. Moving on to 35. Remember, the discriminant is just b squared minus 4ac. The discriminant is just b squared minus 4ac. And this is one of the extended response questions on the midterm. So on a question like this, I would expect to see the work of you computing the discriminant to be able to answer this. So you have 10 squared minus 4 times 5 times 5, which is 100 minus 100, which is 0. So one real solution. 35 is one real solution because the discriminant is 0. 36, it says solve with the quadratic formula. I broke the rules. I didn't solve this with the quadratic formula. Anybody know what I would have used? It's a lot easier. How about factoring? Right? Factors into, well, anyway, the answers are 2 and 6. The answers are 2 and 6. Speaking of 6 and speaking of 36, did you guys hear about the talking sheepdog? The talking sheepdog says, "Hey, boss." That's how talking sheepdog talk, you know. "Hey, boss. I rounded up all the sheep. All 40 of them are accounted for." The boss said, 40? There's only 36. Sheepdog says, "I know, I rounded them up." 37. 37, you can punch that into the calculator, or you got to substitute back in that I squared is negative 1. 37, you get 42 plus 24i. 42 plus 24i. 38 is 31 minus 13i. 39 is 16 plus 56i. 16 plus 56i. Again, if you'd like to see any of these worked out, I'll gladly go over them at the end of the video. 37 was 42 plus 24i, and 38 was 31 minus 13i. And number 40. One of the answers to 40 was nice. The other one was not as nice. The nice answer to 40 was the ordered pair 3, negative 14. 3, negative 14. The other ordered pair is a fraction, and it's a mess. It's negative 2/3, negative 38 ninths. Negative 2/3, negative 38 ninths. Again, if you'd like to see any of these worked out, ask at the end, and I'll gladly do that. 41, both answers are integer pairs. Number 41 is 2, 1, 2, 1, and 3, 0. Number 41, the solutions are 2, 1, and 3, 0. Number 42, that polynomial is a cubic monomial. Cubic monomial. We're almost there. Moving right along to number 43. 43, you got to put the thing in standard form. In standard form, the 9x cubed has to go first, and then the 6x squared has to go next. So the right answer for the first part of 43 is D. The right answer for the first part of 43 is D. And then when we classify this, this is a cubic trinomial. Cubic trinomial. 43 is a cubic trinomial. 44, I'd like to give a shout out to Brianna Stebner. She said, "Hey, wait a minute, can't those terms combine because they're like?" They can, and they all do, don't they? So we have 5 and 3 makes 8. Take away 2. The answer there should be 6x to the 4th. 6x to the 4th when we simplify. So that ends up being a quartic monomial. Quartic monomial. Okay. You don't name a polynomial until it's simplified. You never name a polynomial until it's simplified. Number 45, if we look at that, it's cubic. The end behavior is down and up. Down and up is the end behavior. Turning points, we really didn't talk about that much, other than the fact that if something is of degree 3, it can have 2 turning points, or it could have less than that by an even number. You'd have to graph that to see what it is, and number 45 actually has 2 turning points. Okay, so number 45, the end behavior is down and up, and there are 2 turning points. Number 46 has end behavior of up dog. Has end behavior of up dog. And if you graph 46, the graph heads downward, and then it kind of does a little curve, and then it keeps heading down. It never actually turns around. It could have 2 turning points or less than that by an even number. So 46 actually has no turning points. 0 turning points. 46 has 0 turning points. Okay. 47, f of 6 is 16. F of negative 7 is negative 10. And f of 0 is 4. So 47, we're looking at 16, negative 10, and 4. 48, if you just plug in the 9 there, you get the absolute value of negative 3, which is 3. So 48, the right answer is D. 49 is an extended response. I'm going to go ahead and write that one up. So make sure that one like 49 is 4 minus 7i times 4 plus 7i. Make sure that you can work one of these out by hand, because I will need to see the work shown to get full credit. If you just have the right answer, the calculator will give you the right answer, but I do need to see all the work shown on this to verify that this is a real product. So our first term product gives us 16. Remember, on these we like to FLEO or FLOY. So the last term's product gives us a minus 49i squared. But if you recall, I squared is negative 1, so that's going to make that plus 49. And 16 plus 49 is going to be 65. And then when we do the EO or the OI part, the inner product is minus 28i, the outer product is plus 28i, and those cancel. And 65 is real. Okay, make sure you can do one, the extended responses just like that. Okay. I don't think I tell you what the discriminant is, so or not the discriminant, the conjugate. Okay, so on the test, I think it's going to say 3 minus 10i is a complex number. Show that the product of it and its conjugate is real. Okay, so make sure that you can find the conjugate. Last but certainly not least, number 50. Kind of a tricky question. Never really talked about it exactly. Negative integers. Well, it can't be the first choice, can't be the second choice, can't be the last choice, so it's the third choice there. Dot, 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 -3, -2, -1, and so number 50 is the third choice. So that's it. It's been real. It's been fun. If you have questions, once the video's over, I'll gladly answer those live and in person. I hope everybody does awesome on their midterm. Have a terrific day. See you. Shout out to the future Mr. Minnick for being awesome.